Hello everybody, and welcome to the patch rundown video for the Artifacts 2.0 update. I just ended my stream, twitch.tv/WoolieGaming, by the way. And I gotta be honest guys, this is the best update we have had, no joke. The amount of content in this update is actually ridiculous. And trust me, you'll understand why in a minute. So again, I'm doing this recap after I've already played the update for about 6 hours, so hopefully I can give you guys some better insight as to what these changes actually mean, rather than just hypothetically speculating what's going. So first things first, right here, you can vote for the next survivor. If you go to the official Risk of Rain 2 Discord, I'll leave a link in the description below, you get the opportunity to choose the next survivor, well, you and everybody else. So you have a choice between all of the remaining Risk of Rain 1 casts, so Enforcer, Sniper, Bandit, etc., or a brand new survivor. So go ahead and cast your vote now at the official Risk of Rain 2 Discord. By the way, Sniper is in a massive lead right now. But for the actual update patch notes, let's get into it. First thing first, obviously they added the artifacts. And right here, you can see that you have to explore the planet to unlock 16, yes, 16 artifacts, powerful and mysterious artifacts that will dramatically change the way you play. Now, this can be as simple as enabling friendly fire. If you're playing multiplayer, there's an artifact called Artifact of Death, where if one person dies, everybody dies. Artifact of Glass is back, which gives you 500% increased damage, but only 10% max health. And I only unlocked 2 on my stream. In 6 hours of gameplay, I unlocked 2. So there is a lot of content here. And then here's the whole list of all the artifacts. I don't know what all of them do. I'm not going to go through all of them. You'll figure them out eventually. They also overhauled the UI. It actually looks a lot better, a lot cleaner. They also updated the version of Unity they were running the game on, so hopefully crashes are way less frequent now. The new stage is Sky Meadows, which an important note here is it is stage 5. No longer do we have the usual 4 stages and then you loop the game. Now it goes to stage 5, which has no variant. It's always going to be Sky Meadow as your 5th stage. Then you loop back to the 1st stage. Also, and I'll put out a video here on unlocking the artifacts, the place where you actually unlock the artifacts is in Sky Meadows. If you don't want any spoilers, just know that it's on Sky Meadows. New hidden realm, which is the artifacts realm. As far as I know, there's no other hidden realm. It is just the place where you unlock the artifacts. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. You have 5 new skill variants here. So the Commando's utility is a slide. It's actually really cool. If you play the Max Payne series, the slow down bullet time, you can dash. That's pretty much what it is. You can shoot while you slide. It's actually very fun to use. The Hunter's Primary is instead of shooting 1 shot, you kind of charge up 3 shots and you fire them at the same time. And when you crit, you shoot 6 strikes instead of only 3. So it's too early to give my actual opinions on these abilities and their power, but so far they all are actually pretty good. Acrid's utility I actually haven't unlocked yet. Acrid utility, I believe they meant to say Acrid is secondary here. And if you look in your character select screen, it's actually a new secondary ability, not a utility. He got his utility last patch. I actually don't know what it does yet because I haven't unlocked it. But Acrid's passive I have unlocked. It's called Blight. It's essentially the same thing as Poison, except you can stack it multiple times and it can kill targets. However, it only deals base damage. It chooses the greater value between the target's max health and your base damage, but if you're fighting anything tankier than like a regular beetle, it's probably doing max health damage, whereas the new passive, the Blight, only deals base damage, so keep that in mind. And then the Engineer utility, he's got his harpoons back. If you did not play the first game, he essentially has a disposable missile launcher now. And yes, that is correct. The Engineer skin is here finally. The 2 new monsters, the Mini Mushroom. This guy looks pretty harmless, except he lobs a little like fire artillery, and when it hits the ground, it creates like a huge like magma zone, kind of like when Acrid leaps and it leaves behind the trail of acid. That's basically what they do. And then the parents, these guys are imp overlords that slam all the time. They teleport way more frequently than imp overlords, and they slam all the time. They're pretty dangerous. The new boss, I'm pretty sure this is referring to the artifact zone. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. The new items here, the Repulsion armor plate is a common item, which gives you 5 flat damage reduction to everything. It'll say when you pick it up only to attacks, but it applies to everything. Damage over times, including burns and bleeds, which is actually really strong. I forgot to mention this is a common item, by the way. The Squid Polyp, honestly, I know I said it was too early to give my opinions on stuff, but this thing sucks. This thing sucks big time. Squid Polyp is a green item that when you interact with anything on the stage, so a barrel, a chest, a multi-shop, etc., it drops a little turret for you. But that turret is not even equivalent in power to a sentry turret. And on top of that, their health decays over time like a Happiest Mascos. This thing is like straight garbage. It only exists to pollute the green item pool, unless there's something secret about it that we haven't figured out yet. The Death Mark item is also a green, and when you apply 4 separate debuffs to a target, they take 50% increased damage per stack for, I think it's like 8 seconds or something. It's a pretty long duration. This thing is actually super, super powerful. You get like 1 or 2 tri-tips, a gasoline, an ice band, a chrono bauble. Yes, chrono bauble counts as a separate debuff, and you will be proccing Deathmark all the time. It's actually very, very powerful. I'm super excited to test this thing out. The Interstellar Death Plant is a red item, and when you kill an enemy, it essentially creates a fungus where they were. So far, it's also not very good. I mean, there's been times where I've killed multiple enemies. I'll have like 3 or 4 death plants overlapping, and I hardly get any heal at all. Definitely not enough to warrant staying in that small zone and getting hit by other stuff. It's really not that good. But again, it's too early to really give my thoughts on this stuff. Wait for my item and equipment tier list for that. The new Sommering equipment, if you play League of Legends, it's like Talon's W. He throws out the blades, they sit for a second, then they come back to him. If you don't play League of Legends, it's basically a saw boomerang. The Recycler is actually pretty interesting equipment. How this works is any item that is on the ground, not in your inventory, you can walk up to it and you can use the Recycler. It'll switch it into another item of the same rarity. Now, again, how useful it'll be, we don't know yet. But from what I've tested, it doesn't seem too powerful. It's like, oh crap, I got a monster tooth. Let me try and re-roll this into a teddy bear or a paracrit. But it's any possible white item you could get. So who knows how strong that's going to be. The Focus Convergence, this is actually a really cool item. It's a lunar item that reduces the charge time of the teleporter, but makes the radius smaller. Honestly, I don't think that's very much of a downside. If you're telling me it reduces the charge time of the teleporter, you sign me right up. That sounds exactly like the item I want. And then the new boss item, I believe this also has to do with the artifacts update. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. The new chest here, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a multi-shop for equipment. And then we have the challenges for the survivor's abilities, the challenges for the items, the monster logs, and the lore entries for all the stuff. And here's where some more juicy stuff happens. The actual gameplay changes. So allowing initial monster spawns in the first stage, what I've seen so far is that when you spawn the stage, the monsters are right there waiting for you. Now, as you can see by this next line, they aren't literally right next to you, but they're scattered across the stage. So you will basically be right in the action as soon as you spawn 100% of the time. No longer will you have to be sitting around just waiting for stuff to spawn. You will have at least a couple monsters as soon as you start a run. Also, you can get elite monsters right off the bat. However, one big thing I want to note about all of these is that if a monster is initially on the stage, they give much less gold than a monster that would have spawned. Even if it spawns like 2 seconds later, it doesn't matter. A monster that is already on the stage when you spawn versus a monster that spawns later, the one that spawns later will give you much more gold on kill. I don't know why that happens, but it does. And that is still the case, even with this update here. So the AoE fall-off damage, I didn't really notice too much of an impact with this, but basically AoE attacks like the scrap launcher, commandos, grenades, etc., and monster attacks like the greater wisps, the AoE fall-off damage is more accurate. I didn't notice the difference. I got hit by tons of AoE stuff. It didn't really do more damage, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. Also, this line here, you can stagger enemies more effectively with the more damage you deal. All right, so here's a bit of a balance pass on the survivors. The first one, Huntress's special ability, received a 5-second cooldown reduction from 17 to 12 seconds. This is a very, very, very welcome change. I'm so glad they put this in. She didn't need numerical value buffs on anything. I think just lowering the cooldown by those 5 seconds is voila, perfect. Also, her auto attack feels a lot better. It fires a little bit faster. It has double the travel speed, and it has this cool new effects. It's actually a very nice change on her M1. The Commando's phase round, which is the default secondary, had its damage increased by 50%. So going from 200% to 300%, but honestly, take Phase Blast. You should always be taking Phase Blast. And then the Rex change here, the Bramble Volley is his alternate utility. It is going from a 2-second to a 5-second cooldown, which is now matching his default utility. However, it now has a 0.5 proc coefficient. So it can proc things like your ukuleles, your ATGs, etc. Honestly, I think it's going to be just as good, if not even better now. Yes, it has a longer cooldown, but it is already a monster of an ability due to the amount of healing you get from it. And now that it can proc your other stuff, woo! Mercenary, the Slicing Winds, which is his alternate special ability, is going from a 7-second cooldown to a 6-second cooldown. That's definitely not enough of a reason for me to take it over Eviscerate. But hey, it's a nice little buff. Accurate, a very small change here. The Caustic Leap, the little acid pool that I already mentioned, now it can kill stuff. Not that big of a change, but it's pretty cool. And then Engineer, we obviously get the new ability, the new skin, get some new animations, but the bubble shield now flashes for you when it's about to explode, so better it lets you know when it's actually going to expire. Moving on to the items here, Infusion now grants an additional HP on kill per stack, rather than only increasing the max health you get by an additional 100. So when you kill an enemy with 2 stacks of Infusion, you get 2 health per kill, up to 200 additional health. This is not a nerf, it is only a buff. The med kit goes from a 15 HP heal to a 25 HP heal. Now that is a sizable buff, however, the delay from the heal is now 3 seconds instead of 2. In my opinion, med kit is good in the early game when you're taking a lot of damage quickly. You can retreat a little bit from a situation, wait for the heal to pop, and then continue. But now with an additional second on there, it's limiting those situations even more. So if you're in a situation with tons of enemies around, it's even harder to get the med kit to go off now. The Royle Capacitor is actually kind of interesting. The lightning is now not instant. It's a 0.3 second delay, and it strikes where the target was when you cast it, not where the target currently is. Now, 0.3 seconds is not that long. It honestly is about the same power, if not a little weaker. The stun grenade chance to trigger now scales by proc coefficient, which is actually kind of interesting. That's a nerf to stun grenade. I guess it was always a 5% chance no matter what you were hitting with, so now it's not. If you could not find for the life of you the Scorched Acres or Siren's Call environment logs, it was a bug. They have fixed the bug. They will now start showing up. So there you go. Also, they did some improvements on pathfinding on Distant Roost and Titanic Plains. And here's a massive change. The Void Fields. Time is now stopped, similar to the blue portal and the gold portal. However, you have to stay inside of the little pink bubble around the cell. If you leave it, you will not charge it. Now, I haven't gone to the Void Realms yet, but I would wager that is a massive nerf. Not only does that remove the safe spot by the way, but it also means if you do not have a really strong run going, you are going to get swarmed by enemies. Like, think about the size of that AoE compared to the teleporter. It's a massive difference, right? You have even less room to work with inside of the Void Field, so good luck. And then this is my favorite part. Abandoned Aqueducts. Disable the ice and fire Elder Lemurians from spawning if the gate isn't legitimately open. We see you, Mr. Streamer. They got me, boys. For the monsters and bosses, there's really not a lot of changes here, except for down here we have the Buffalo. They have less HP. The Beetle Guards have less HP. The Imps have less HP. And the Vultures have less HP. Also, the Void Reavers are a little more dangerous now, but not really. Just don't stand in the AoE. Here's another good change here. The Scavengers can no longer spawn with ceremonial daggers. And their notes on that, we're comfortable with Scavengers being a bit BS at times, as long as it's fun. The Praeon, the Capacitor, Disposal Missile Launcher, etc. are strong, but still fun and have moments of cooldown. Ceremonial daggers have no downtime, infinite range, and no cooldown. Yeah, they're busted. Rejoice, boys. You will no longer encounter a scav with dagger. Also, the second worst scav with a Royle Capacitor has been nerfed because remember, the Capacitor now has a 0.3 second delay and it shoots where you were, not where you are. So overall, Scavengers should be way less lethal. And then here with the Twisted Scavengers, the base HP has been nerfed. However, they now scale properly with the unique boss. So Aurelia Knight, Aloe Worship Unit, etc. They now get that same scaling. So they're going to be much more dangerous. And here's what they say right here. Expect the Twisted Scavengers to be significantly more challenging. They want the Beads of Filthy to not be a free 15 lunar coins, which makes sense. And then a small change, Twip no longer has Tougher Times or Shield Gens, but he now has Gasoline, Chrono Bobbles, and Crit. And that's about it, honestly. We have some sound and music stuff, quality of life changes, and bug fixes, but most of the big stuff I covered in the patch rundown. If you want the full details, I will leave a link in the description to the full patch notes, so feel free to read that. And then other than that, the last thing here is, again, the survivor vote. If you want to vote on the next survivor, you can do so on the official Risk of Rain 2 Discord. Again, there'll be a link in the description. Other than that, thank you guys for watching, and man, I am pumped for this update. It is looking spicy.